Alright everyone, it is Finn here and welcome to my Premier League Matchweek 9 predictions and tips, where today we've got some phenomenal games to talk about, as usual I guess, such as the Merseyside derby, a London derby and no Tonali. Ooh, that rhymed. But of course, as I said, welcome back to a brand new week of predictions and tips. Now, of course, before we jump into what my predictions are, do let me know in the comment section down below what your predictions for this match week is. But of course, jumping into our first game of match week 9, we have the Merseyside derby, Liverpool versus Everton. Now, every single time these two teams do play against each other, it is always such an interesting contest to watch. But I do think this time around, it has to be Liverpool with, I'm going to say, a 3-0 win here. Look at Liverpool, just overall they're better. If it wasn't for that Tottenham Hotspur's loss, I think they'll still be on an incredible unbeaten run. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they desperately needed this international break. Obviously, a loss to Tottenham Hotspur's, which still shouldn't have happened, and a draw versus Brighton. I do think Liverpool needed a bit of a calm down.
We were on a break!
But versus Everton, who are currently 16th place on the table, I'm going to give them a 3-0 win. Ultimately, though, I do think Everton, with a win against both Bournemouth and Brentford, maybe they could hold the surprise here. And they have to be careful, getting 2 wins so far this season. At this rate, Sean Dyche might be appointed the next England or Chelsea manager.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I mean, I joke, but I wouldn't put it totally past either of those two teams. But ultimately, I do think Liverpool will win 3-0, and my betting tip is going to be over 2.5 goals. Now, jumping into the next game, Bournemouth versus Wolves, and once again, very easy winner in my opinion, with a 2-0 win to Wolves. Looking at Bournemouth, once again, I still can't believe they got rid of the likes of Gary O'Neill, and they'll be facing Gary O'Neill in this game, and I mean, who better to read the team than the former manager? I'm going to give this one to Wolves. Obviously, they did a brilliant job to get points versus both Man City and Aston Villa, two very informed teams, and although they're 14th place on the table, I do think that their performances are better than their results, and they'll take this one 2-0. Looking at Bournemouth, once again, 18 goals against so far this season and the least goals scored. I just can't see them getting the results. Wolves should take it, and my betting tip is a Wolves win. Now, jumping into the third game, we've got Brentford versus Burnley. And looking at Brentford, as a Manchester United fan, I can admit that maybe we were a tiny bit lucky to get the result versus them.
I'm a little bit worried.
I mean, what, bringing Scott McTominay on just before the 90th minute and for him to score in the 93rd and 97th minute. I mean, once again, I may be aged by about 20 years watching that game, but ultimately, I do think Brentford have what it takes, or has what it takes, to get a result versus Burnley. I'm going to give them a 2-1 win here. I do think my betting tip will be Brentford to win, but ultimately, looking at Brentford, I do think that they have been unlucky so far this season, that they have been better than their results, and versus a Burnley team that their only win has been against Luton, I do think ultimately Brentford should take it. Now, next up, we've got Man City versus Brighton, and what a brilliant game this could turn out to be. I mean, obviously, in their last game or two, without both Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne, Man City have looked to be a shell of their former selves. Dare I say they've been playing like Man United.
And I miss you.
Obviously, looking at them, I don't think it's going to be easy versus Brighton, but I still think they're going to take it with a 3-1 win. Looking at Brighton, I don't think we can scoff on them either. I think they've been brilliant so far, getting points versus Liverpool, Man United and Newcastle so far this season. So Man City's the only top 4 team from last season who they haven't gotten points against yet. I do think they've been brilliant, and my betting tip is going to be both teams to score. I think it's going to be incredibly close, but I do think Man City will win this one 3-1, and I guess we'll have to see whether the robot Erling Haaland charged or got a bit of a software update over the international break. Now, next up, we've got Newcastle United versus Crystal Palace. Now, yes, I know, looking at this on paper, which I'm literally doing right now.
Stop it. Get some help.
Newcastle United should be the clear favourites here. And I mean, to be fair to them, obviously got a brilliant team. It wasn't that long ago they beat PSG in the Champions League. But ultimately, Crystal Palace, the most clean sheets in the Premier League at the moment, getting 3 in a row. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as one might think. It is 8th place versus 9th place on the table. But ultimately, I do think Newcastle United should still be the better team. And I'm going to give them a very narrow 1-0 win. Obviously, Alexander Isak was absolutely brilliant in the previous game, scoring 2 goals. And I do think he'll be the match winner this time around. Obviously, as we know, the big talking point is no Sandro Tonali. He has been banned from football because of obviously gambling addiction, which, I mean, for a betting tip video, he's maybe the one person who shouldn't be watching it. But ultimately, as I said, a 1-0 win and a Newcastle United win as my betting tip. Now, next up, we do have Nottingham Forest versus Luton. And looking at Luton, once again, I just haven't seen it from them this season. They've only gotten one win, which was against Everton, which, I mean, not the most surprising thing in world football. But other than that, I just can't see them doing it versus a very promising,
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it? Yes!
versus a very promising, Nottingham Forest team. I think on their day, they've had some absolutely brilliant performances. Yes, only 2 goals for in their last 4 games. But I do think if you had to look at both of these two teams, I definitely think Forest are the better team here. And they should definitely take it. And my betting tip is I think it's going to be a very low scoring game with under 1.5 goals. Now, next up, we have Chelsea versus Arsenal, a London derby. Now, looking at Arsenal, they've absolutely dominated this performance over recent years, winning 6 of the last 7 games versus Chelsea. We're looking at Chelsea, 2 wins in a row. I think that's probably the first time they've done that since the Thomas Tuchel era. But jokes aside, I think this is going to be an absolutely phenomenal game. Obviously, Arsenal unbeaten in the Premier League at the moment versus Chelsea, who are currently in 11th place. I do think Chelsea have potential to do something here, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Arsenal have by far been a better team, had dominated this fixture even before they were a good team, I would say. And I'm going to give this one to Arsenal with a 3-1 win. And if I had to put a betting tip here, I'm going to put both teams to score. I think it's going to be mental to watch. Now, next up, we've got Sheffield United versus Man United. And as a Manchester United fan, I swear, if we lose points to 20th place Sheffield United, who have conceded 22 goals and only scored 6 goals, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I might actually cry. Looking at Sheffield United once again, if there's one team they could beat in the Premier League, it's probably Man United, with Andre Onana scoring a hat-trick of own goals. Or, you know what? No, he's quite a generous man. He'll give it to their striker to score goals. But at the end of the day, I do think Man United should win this one. I do think they've got an absolutely brilliant team. We just haven't seen it yet. As we know, they've been struggling with injuries. Now, Casemiro is out injured. But I just have a gut feeling that something's going to switch in this game. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's going to happen. And I'm going to give Man United a 3-0 win here. Maybe it's me being biased. Maybe it's me calling out for help. But I'm going to give United a 3-0 win with my betting tip being 2.5 goals or over 2.5 goals. Now, jumping into our second last game, we've got Aston Villa versus West Ham United. 2 teams who have been very, very good so far this season. 5th versus 7th place. Obviously, looking at Villa, the only losses they've had this season is Liverpool and Newcastle. And the only losses for West Ham is City and Liverpool. So both of these 2 teams on super high form at the moment. West Ham rejuvenating their entire midfield, while looking at Aston Villa once again rejuvenating their entire squad. I genuinely think this could be a super, super close game, but I am going to give this one to Aston Villa with a 2-1 win. Once again, I've just seen a few more moments where I genuinely look at them and I think, wow, that's a European team. So I do think Villa will win, with my betting tipping both teams to score. But of course, that does take us to our final game of Matchweek 9 with Tottenham Hotspurs versus Fulham. Now, looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, once again, they've been so consistent in the Premier League, other than Arsenal, the only other unbeaten team in the Premier League, currently 1st place, which, as I said, I still think would be so funny if they won a trophy without Harry Kane. I mean, he came, he conquered, or I guess he didn't conquer because he didn't win any silverware.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
But I do think now that they don't have Harry Kane, maybe he was the problem all along. But obviously, once again, not digging too deep into that, I do think Tottenham Hotspurs versus Fulham should pick up a 2-0 win. I'm going to put Tottenham Hotspurs to win as my betting tip here. But looking at Fulham, once again, I was kind of afraid of this. They've only scored 8 goals so far this season. And I do think that they are missing Mitrovic, as much as I didn't want to admit so. But ultimately, I do think Spurs should take it. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my Premier League Matchweek 9 predictions and tips. As I said, let me know in the comment section down below who you think is going to end up winning every single game, or at least which team you support and what you think your result will be. And as I said, betting tips, it's kind of something new that I've added to these videos. And if you would like to see it more in future, do let me know in the comment section down below and leave a like. But of course, guys, this has been Finn, FYNN. Cheers.